system-wide accessibility. And I'm going to be kicking off the meeting today, going through some logistics before our more important speakers get into the content. So this meeting is about the impact of the Daniels-Finegold Agreement with the MBTA, celebrating progress and sustaining accessibility. If you are in the wrong place, now would be the appropriate time to politely leave. My clicker is not clicking. There we go. All right. So first off, I'm going to cover some very important safety information. So in case of emergency, there are two exit routes. The first and primary route is directly behind this row of chairs through those doors, and that route should be taken by anybody comfortable using stairs to exit, because you're going to then immediately turn to your left and exit down the stairs right in front of you. If you need the elevator to exit the building, you are going to exit via the doors on my left-hand side by the security desk, and you are going to wait by that elevator bank that's going to be directly to your left, and that is the rally point for our first responders. If a striker chair is required by anyone, there is one in the back room. The door over there leads to a back office, and there is a striker chair there for use if needed. I'm going to pause now and ask, in case of emergency, is anybody CPR certified? Can you guys raise your hands even? Yes. That's right, very, very tall. So if everybody could look around and see who's CPR certified, it looks like you're nicely distributed through the crowd, which is great. Some additional notes on the space. In that office space directly behind the screen here that I was referring to, there is a quiet room. If anybody needs such a space at any point during this meeting, please feel free to avail yourself. And there are folks at the entrance door to that office space who can help get you situated. And if you need a restroom, again, the exit directly behind your rows of chairs is where you're going to want to leave the room from. Go past the security information desk, and then about 30 feet in front of you will be restrooms. Our Spanish interpreters for the meeting are Enrica and David. To listen to language interpretation, first off, in your meeting webinar controls, click Interpretation, which also has a globe-like symbol. Click the language that you would like to hear, and then optionally to hear the interpreted language only and not also the English that we're speaking, click Mute Original Audio. A couple of notes on that. You must join the meeting audio through your computer or voice over IP. You can't listen to language interpretation if you use the dial-in or call me phone audio features. And secondly, as a participant joining a language channel, you can rejoin the main audio channel if you unmute your audio and speak. And now I'm going to pass it over to my colleague Glenda, who's going to provide these directions in Spanish.
Hi, buenas tardes. Ofrecemos interpretación en español durante esta junta. Para escoger el audio en inglés o en español, tendrá que escoger el botón de interpretación, el cual tiene una imagen de un mundo o un globo. Después, por favor, de escoger el idioma cual él le gustaría usar. Gracias.
Thank you, Glenda. All right, our American Sign Language interpreters today are Sean and Danielle. Thank you very much. The Zoom host will spotlight the interpreter's videos, and if needed to pin someone's video in Zoom, you will first find the person's video in the gallery. In the top right corner of the interpreter's video, you'll click the ellipses, and then you'll click the pin option. And that will keep the person's video visible on your screen. And then a notification of recording. This public meeting will, and in fact already is being recorded. The MBTA may choose to retain and distribute the video, audio, and transcript. By continuing attendance with this virtual and hybrid public meeting, you consent to participating in this recorded event. If you're not comfortable being recorded, you can either turn off your camera and audio, put that on mute, or you can choose to excuse yourself from the meeting today. All MBTA activities, including public meetings, are free from discrimination. The MBTA complies with all federal and state civil rights requirements preventing discrimination on the basis of race, color, national origin, disability, limited English proficiency, and additional protected characteristics. We welcome the diversity from across our entire service area. If you have any questions or concerns, please visit www.mbta.com/Title VI, and the 6 is the VI version, to reach the Office of Diversity and Civil Rights. CART captioning for this meeting is being provided by Denise. Thank you, Denise. To access in the meeting controls toolbar, you can click Show Captions, and it has the little CC in the box. To click, a tip is to click and drag the captions to move them where you want them in the meeting window. And to adjust the caption size, should you want to, in the meeting controls, next to Show Captions, click the up arrow and click Caption Settings. Next to the font size, you can move the slider to adjust the caption size. If you need some help with Zoom, we have folks available to provide assistance. If you have technical questions about Zoom or a feature of the meeting or anything I just covered in these previous slides, you can use the chat function and put your question into the chat, and our technical assistant will attempt to troubleshoot your problem and get back to you. And I believe that is all of my technical logistic information. So to orient you back to why we are here today, we're going to briefly look at the agenda, and then I'm going to hand it over to our speakers to my left. So to start the meeting, the Honorable Judge King is going to provide a status of the settlement agreement. This will be followed by remarks from our General Manager, Philip Eng. Then a statement from the plaintiffs group, which Joanne Daniels-Finegold will be providing. Following that, Kat Torret, Kat is going to provide a Future of the Riders Transportation Access Group, also known as RTAG, update. Then Laura Brailsford is going to provide a Looking to the Future from SWA's lens, followed by remarks from the Greater Boston Legal Services and BCIL from Bill and Tara. And I regret to inform you that due to previous activities and ceremonies running a little bit long, as I'm sure you've noticed, we started our public meeting slightly late today. You are going to have to come back, hopefully in January, to hear our update on bus lane and bus stop enforcement with our colleagues from the TID department. We were very excited to have them here, and unfortunately we just won't have time, because what isn't on this agenda is that we will have ample time at the end for your feedback, your comments, and your questions. And so we wanted to make sure that our meeting agenda was not rushed, and as you can see, we have lots to get through. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Laura Brailsford, our Assistant General Manager of System-Wide Accessibility.
All right, thank you so much, Vera. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Laura Brailsford, the Assistant General Manager for Accessibility here at the T. I am so glad to see so many folks here today to mark this milestone with us. We also have several dozen people with us virtually, so thank you all for finding a way to be with us today. As is evidenced from the screen, we do have a lot to cover today, so I want to jump right in, and I am going to ask Judge Patrick King to take the microphone to deliver what will be his final report in his role as independent monitor for the Daniels-Finegold settlement.
All right, good afternoon. I would like to welcome everyone today for what is our 38th semi-annual public meeting under the 2006 settlement agreement between the MBTA and the plaintiffs. I believe I told you at the June meeting that the plaintiffs and the MBTA were having discussions to put me out to pasture. Those discussions were successful, and the parties have reached a new agreement between BCIL and the MBTA, and I think Laura will probably go into more detail about that later in the program. But as a result of this new agreement, the oversight will be transferred to the RTAG, and I'm confident that they will do a fantastic job in continuing with the work that I have done over the past 18 years. The Next Generation Accessibility Agreement provides RTAG with the resources it will need to oversee compliance with the obligations of the MBTA and provide ample options to enforce any agreements that are not kept. In addition, the Next Generation Agreement contains numerous provisions to assure that the progress that has been made will be maintained and that additional improvements will be made in future years. Key provisions of the Next Generation Agreement include maintaining system-wide accessibility as well as the internal monitoring program, which has been so vital in keeping track of how well the MBT has been doing over the last 18 years. When the plaintiffs first sued the MBTA back in 2003, persons with disabilities found it very difficult, if not impossible, to use the system. Indeed, 25 years ago, you would find very few people with disabilities using the system because they were required to use the ride in order to get around because the system was so unreliable. The allegations made by the plaintiffs were confirmed in a 2005 bus study by Delta Services in 2005. I want to just quote from that report to show how things were back then compared to how they are now. So as I quote, "Our systemic analysis of MBTA bus service for people with disabilities reveals pervasive patterns of problems in most areas of operation. While drivers generally seek to accommodate people with disabilities, the ratios of field equipment, seemingly untrained drivers, and denials or refusal of service are high. People with disabilities who use MBTA buses face frequent travel barriers and or transit conditions that are unsafe and dangerous." There are very many reasons why the system was in the condition that it was, 25 years ago, primarily because of underfunding over generations. The T was unable to maintain the system, to modernize the equipment it was using, and to become compliant with the requirements of the Americans with Disability Act. A comparison of key findings made in 2005 in the Delta Services report compared with the current internal monitoring reports reflect the remarkable progress that have been made over the years. And let me just mention a few of them. In 2005, the bus lifts failed 19% of the time, so persons in wheeled mobility devices could not even get on the bus. As a result of the settlement agreement, all those old buses have been retired, and now this T system is completely low floor. In 2005, drivers denied access to persons with disabilities 11% of the time. Today, this really occurs. In 2005, bus drivers failed or refused kneelers 11% of the time. Once again, today, this really occurs. In 2005, repeated failures on any trips occurred 11.5% of the time. Today, customers are really inexperienced because of interruptions in service because they can't get on the bus or they can't get on an elevator at a subway station. In 2005, hostile or unfriendly interactions of drivers with customers with disabilities occurred 18% of the times. This really happens today. In 2005, failure or refusal to properly secure wheeled mobility devices occurred 91% of the time. So 91% of the times, wheeled mobility devices were not properly secured. I recall watching an MBTA video of a bus driver going around a corner and seeing a customer in a wheeled mobility device go flying to the other side of the bus because the driver never secured the wheeled mobility device. Fortunately, we never see that happening today. At present, I think the failure to properly secure all 4 attachments is down to about 7%. So it's gone from 93% down to about 7% today. Well, the 2005 Delta study did not survey the entire system. We all know that the entire system was broken as well when it comes to access. Even if one were able to reach a subway station on a bus, quite often the elevators weren't working and people could not access the station, or once they accessed the station, could not get out because at the end of the trip there was a elevator that was out. Fortunately today, elevators are up and running about 99% of the time or better, and because of all the extra elevators that have been, redundant elevators that have been added, it's very rare that someone can't access the subway system, or once they access it, can't get off. As my role as independent monitor comes to an end, I want to extend my sincere gratitude to everyone who contributed to the success that has been achieved. This success would not have been possible without the commitment made by MBTA managers, MBTA employees, the plaintiffs, and the countless hours devoted by members of the disability community to assist the MBTA in numerous areas, including assisting with the training of employees, providing important input on everything from proposed service changes to design for new vehicles and various policies such as emergency evacuation procedures. I have been involved in many class actions over the past 50 years. Typically, after a class action is filed, the lawyers take it over and you never hear anything more from the class representatives. Not so with regard to this class action. From the very beginning, the class representatives have been involved on a regular basis in every detail of the implementation of the settlement agreement and have provided invaluable feedback and suggestions to MBTA managers and to me. In addition to the many thousands of hours of volunteer time contributed by the named plaintiffs, many members of the community have volunteered countless hours to assist the MBTA with training programs. I see we have James White here, former ACT chairman, who devoted countless hours of his own time to assist in training programs. I see other people out here, Don Somerville I saw out here, my so-called squeaky wheel. He seems to be always using the system, and it's very rare when he doesn't find a problem, which he is not hesitant to bring to everyone's attention. But it's only through efforts of people like Don and other people in this room that we're able to identify the problems in the system so that corrective action can be made. On that point, when this all started 2 decades ago, the system did not really keep track of employees who weren't doing their work. There was no system of imposing sanctions against employees who weren't living up to their obligations. That's all changed now. The MBTA has a very sophisticated system providing managers with up-to-date reports concerning complaints so that they can follow up and take corrective action. And now with cameras everywhere, it's very easy for management to identify where the problems are. In the past, it was a he said, she said, driver said one thing, the passenger said another. There was no way of verifying exactly what happened. But today, with all the cameras everywhere, that's no longer a problem, and the T has taken appropriate steps to discipline those occasional drivers who are not following the proper procedures. Allow me at this time to give special thanks to all the various general managers that I've dealt with over the years, starting with Dan Grabowskis, who had the courage to settle the case rather than litigate it. Quite often, people in the public sectors leave it to the lawyers to duke it out, and hopefully by the time there's an adverse decision, they've left and moved on to a different job. But Dan Grabowskis realized what the problem was and decided to settle it, and as a result of his efforts, a very comprehensive agreement was reached to resolve the case. Special thanks is also owed to former System-Wide Accessibility Assistant General Manager Gary Talbot. Also, his successor, Laura Brailsford, and her staff have all done an amazing job, including Chris Hart, who played a key role in drafting the original settlement terms, Rob Sampson, Safira Bell Masterson, Jennifer Ross, Catherine Quigley, Mike Fester, and Glenda Campbell. They've all done a magnificent job in making sure that everything that possible is done to keep the system accessible. At the risk of omitting managers who've made significant contributions, I'd like to thank David Carney, Ryan Cohalan, Frank DePaula, Brian Dwyer, Carla Howes, Joe Kelly, John Lewis, Margie Lackner, Bill Lally, Sean McCarthy, and Eric Studhoff. By the way, this hasn't all been work for me. I don't know how many people can say they've driven the red line. So, and I probably shouldn't say this in public, but Brian Dwyer took me on the red line when I first started and wanted to show me how the dead man switch worked. So obviously you can't do that by explaining it. You have to sit down and actually do it. So I was quite happy and pleased to realize that on the red line that day, the dead man switch was working properly and I didn't cause any accidents. Over the past 18 years, I have used the service of several consultants. I would like to thank Chris Iwerks for the amazing job he did in creating a new wayfinding system for the MBTA. Also, a thank you is owed to David Rochelle from Delta Services Group, who assisted me in a number of ways in the years past. In closing, my time as independent monitor is bittersweet. On the one hand, I'm very happy with the progress that has been achieved. On the other hand, I regret the prospect of ending my relationship with such an incredible group of people. I'd like to thank you all for giving me the opportunity to work with you to make the MBTA the world's most accessible public transit system. Thank you. And I'll turn it over to General Manager Rainey. Okay.
All right, deep breaths. Next up, I would like to invite our General Manager and Interim Secretary of Transportation, Phil Lang, to say a few words.
Thank you, Laura. How do you follow Judge King? You could tell, obviously, by his passion and his words, but at the end, the emotion that he just exhibited, true commitment that not only Judge King and his 18 years involved in this, but the entire group involved in the plaintiffs involved in the lawsuit, the folks he mentioned at the T. Laura, thank you very much for you and your team, and all the other folks who are here today, because collectively, today, December 10th, 2025, while it's a historic day and we will never forget this date, I think what I really get so much joy out of thinking about, and it's not that they wanted to spend decades of their time doing this with us, but the passion that the plaintiffs had and their concerns about not only making the system that was not accessible in 2002 and 2005 into one of the best accessible systems in the nation is about paying it forward. It's about making our system available for future users and future needs. And that's really what this is all about. How do we turn this system and do it collectively as a team? And I use the word family as a family, because who would have thought, a lawsuit would turn into such a family matter in ways where, the meetings I've been in over the last 2.5 years have been about partnership challenges, but how do we solve those challenges together? Give and take in terms of maybe we could do better here, and how do we accelerate something? And it is that spirit that has really enabled the agency to really keep moving progress forward, but even maybe accelerating progress. And the judge talked about available dollars. There's never enough to do everything we want, but as we get better and better at it, we're finding ways to make it more cost effective, which allows us to do more of the system, allows us to make better improvements, and at the end they make the system not only safe, reliable, and more frequent for everyone, but accessible. Because it doesn't matter if I could run twice as many trains, buses, et cetera, if it's not accessible, it's not available to all the folks that need to use it, want to use it. I've had the pleasure of being part of this over the last few years. And I get the pleasure and the honor of being able to be up here and talk about it. But it really would not be without the hard work and the dedication of this group that allows me to do what I'm doing right now. I say this so often, I get to go along for the ride when you have such great leadership in all these different positions. And I know going forward, you're going to have that same commitment and dedication from us at the T. But also with working with Kat has taken over the oversight with us. But I also want to tell Judge King, this doesn't have to be goodbye. This is we'll see you later. We'll do other things. And, we know that all of the plaintiffs, and I call partners now, we want continuous feedback. We want to hear how we're doing. That's important to us, right? Because we may think we've done something well or right, but we know we could do things better. Or maybe folks who can share constructive criticism can help us continue to ensure that we are moving in the right direction collectively. It is that transparent dialogue that I've seen over the last few years that has enabled us to really keep moving as a team. And I could not be doing anything that I'm doing without someone like Laura Brailsford and her team leading the way. And it's so many of the other folks that are in this room as well, from strategy and planning, from capital delivery, from operations, from stations, and across all of the modes. Because everyone now has a focus on how do we continue to move the needle on accessibility as we continue to move the needle on so many other things, safety, service, cleanliness, welcoming, all of the riders and all of the people that want to use our system. There's so much more to do, Judge. We know that. We're not done. We've made great strides, but there is a tremendous amount of work to be done ahead. I know there's areas that we want to work on, such as the making the connection between red and orange fully accessible. Transit Police is working with Laura and System-wide Accessibility on rolling out a training program for accessibly focused training that will be later next year, I believe. This is constantly the mindset of, making accessibility something that is at our forefront of everything we talk about, right? I know safety is always a priority, but when you use the terminology and build it into the culture, that's how we make those decisions going forward, that when we move forward with a project, when we move forward with an initiative, when we deliver service like Ryan and his team do, how do we make sure that we're looking at it with every lens that's important and constantly reminding ourselves to keep accessibility as one of our top priorities is going to be paramount going forward. And I will make sure for as long as I am GM and even beyond that, we keep that in our mindset. because I owe it to all of you, with regards to the Daniels-Finegold's settlement agreement, that this becomes the norm going forward, and not just, well, I can't say one and done because it's been decades, but it's not just something where, we celebrate a settlement and we exhale. We will never exhale. It's about continuous improvement. It's about continuing to be dedicated to all the things that are important to all of us. And accessibility, I assure you, is that. I'd be remiss if I don't specifically mention the folks that have been so involved in it. Joanne Daniels-Finegold, where are you? There you are at the end of the table. Fantastic. I love her spirit, and, I cannot thank her enough. Tom Gilbert, there you are. Mick Sapita, Andrew Foreman, yep, Reggie Clark, Christine Daniels, Rob Park, Gene Smith, and as well as the Boston Center for Independent Living, led by Bill Henning. Where's Bill? I know we just did the signing in the back room. Yes, Bill. And of course, Attorney Taramati Doucette. I adore you. Your legal services in the community for over 25 years first brought to light these chronic challenges faced by so many people with disabilities that want to use the MBTA but weren't able to use the MBTA. And your commitment has been unwavering, so thank you for that. It is because of all of you. It is because of Laura and her team. And I want to say the folks at the MBTA, we've embraced it. We're committed to it. I've been blessed to be part of all of this. And I don't know how to say thank you for allowing me to be part of this. Because when we can make a difference in people's lives for the better, there's nothing better than doing what we do day in and day out. And I get to do it with so many friends, colleagues, and people that I love. So I just want to say thank you for allowing me to be part of this. And we're going to keep moving forward. And I assure you that this is only, a point in time to acknowledge all your hard work. But your hard work is going to be demonstrated by how we move forward beyond this point, too. So thank you for your commitment, and thank you for allowing me to say a few words.
All right. Thank you, Phil. All right, so next is someone who, by this point in our journey, likely needs no introduction. The woman behind the name of the most historic settlement agreement in public transportation, Joanne Daniels-Finegold.
Hi, people. Not many people know how this lawsuit started, and to truly understand the progress we've made in the last 19 years, I believe it's important to know the origin story. The Daniels-Finegold et al. Class action suit did not begin with me, but when the case was filed, I was honored to lend my name when asked. The lawsuit began in a few Boston communities. In the 1990s, attorney Taramati Doucette from the Elder Health and Disability Unit at Greater Boston Legal Services held a series of community lawyering classes in Dorchester, Mattapan, Roxbury, and Jamaica Plain. The people attending her classes frequently complained about not being able to attend regularly because of accessibility barriers. Lack of access kept these people from also shopping, school, and appointments. They asked Tara to help get legal relief to fix what was wrong with the MBTA. Tara approached Dan Manning, the litigation director of GBLS, clearly where there was an issue, but litigation was costly, and GBLS was a United Way agency. After some consideration, the litigation was approved. From there, questionnaires were made and distributed to the public so that we could determine where and what were the worst of the transit troubles. When I say we, I mean the plaintiffs and a few students who helped. There weren't legions of interns to do the research and legwork. I researched personally chair securements and with information from the World Bank, a transportation system in London, and the Connecticut Department of Transportation determined that bus driver attitudes could be a barrier to transportation, something that was very difficult to prove. It was August when we went into discovery, and the few students we had were gone. I volunteered to go through the hard copies of files, and for several months I had an office at GBLS in order to do so. We plaintiffs met frequently, and with the information gathered from the questionnaires, research, as well as meeting with the public, and in discovery, we sought 200 comprehensive, specific obligations to be met by the MBTA. The complaint was filed in July 2002. It was amended in February of 2004. The order granting the preliminary approval was granted in April 2006, a little over a year after Dan Grabowskis came to the T and began negotiations with the plaintiffs. And the order for final judgment and the signing of the settlement agreement was on July 5th, 2006. After the settlement agreement, some changes were nearly immediate. Previously, some bus routes were designated inaccessible routes. I lived on one. An accessible bus had to be reserved a day before needed. It was like paratransit service. Clearly, certainly, after the signing, the bus fleet was made nearly 100% accessible. We went from breakable lifts to simple hinged ramps that could be deployed manually if necessary. That was just the beginning. Since then, we've worked collaboratively with the Department of System-Wide Accessibility, as well as Vehicle Design and Engineering and other MBTA departments in an effort to implement the settlement agreement. The work has continued until this year, reviewing reports, encouraging municipal coordination and cooperation, and more. The most important gains have resulted from the Daniels-Finegold settlement agreement are access for all. The agreement recognizes the need to meet people with diverse disabilities. There are audible stop announcements for those who can't see. There are visual stop announcements in stations for those who are deaf. There are braille and tactile warning strips for instruction and safety of various groups who need them. We consistently pushed to ensure that station staffing would meet the needs of the public. The process by which the ADA complaints are resolved has gone from an outsourced vendor back to in-house at the MBTA, whose proper training and institutional knowledge made the process successful. More municipal cooperation and coordination is needed. Municipalities and other stakeholders with bus stops on their properties would do well to notify the MBTA when construction might interfere with bus operations, to continue to consider the ADA with regard to municipal bus stop design. And we live in New England. Just pointing this out. Winter is a perennial occurrence. There needs to be a serious cooperation with regard to snow removal at stops. Please do your due diligence, cities and towns and other stakeholders, to remove snow from bus stops. I've described RTAG as the platform from which we can advocate with the MBTA as plaintiffs have. RTAG needs input and participation from the community in order to continue what has become our push towards 100% accessibility. In addition to those who currently participate, RTAG needs input from those who use the MBTA whose voices aren't currently being heard. College students, high school students, you are needed. Your voices need to be heard. Your needs need to be heard. We can work together to make RTAG a strong and vigorous organization. This is our legacy. Through RTAG, we want to ensure our continued success in the future. That's it.
Joanne, thank you so much. So very much part of what's happening today is the plaintiffs are transitioning, they are passing the baton to BCIL and RTAG to carry forward their work and their legacy. Therefore, I'd like to invite Kat, the RTAG facilitator, to say a few words.
That's not necessary. Hi, everyone. My name is Kat. I am the RTAG facilitator and community organizer. It's nice to see you all. Next slide, please. Unless I can do it. Oh, great. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the role of RTAG to start. RTAG is a community-based advocacy group that advises the MBTA on transportation matters impacting people with disabilities and older adults. The group operates with the complete understanding that all people with disabilities must have every opportunity to be fully participating members of our community. RTAG holds monthly public forums where riders can provide input and feedback regarding accessible public transportation. RTAG also meets regularly with the MBTA, the Department of System-Wide Accessibility, and the RIDE, which is the MBTA's paratransit service. Next slide, please. So like Joanne shared, in 2002, a group of 11 riders and BCIL, represented by Greater Boston Legal Services, filed the Joanne Daniels-Finegold et al. V. MBTA, a class action lawsuit against the MBTA. Joanne mentioned that in 2006, the parties entered into a settlement agreement, forever changing the future of accessibility and the spirit of the Americans with Disabilities Act at the MBTA. In 2018, the MBTA reaffirmed its commitment to fulfilling the lawsuit settlement by entering into an amended agreement that clarified remaining work, outlined a plan for evaluating compliance, and defined current and future obligations. That agreement also included the creation of RTAG. The group serves to hold the MBTA accountable for remaining in compliance with the settlement, even after the settlement ends. We are now shifting to a community-based monitoring model like Laura had shared. This is designed to safeguard the hard-earned progress achieved over nearly 2 decades and to ensure that the MBTA is supported in continuing to build on these improvements towards a 100% accessible transit system. Next slide, please. Since 2018, RTAG has played an active role in advocating for accessibility improvements by working closely with all of the Daniels-Finegold plaintiffs and community members. This collaboration has ensured that the MBTA continues to make progress toward becoming a model for accessible public transportation while honoring all commitments under the settlement agreement. On behalf of RTAG, it is my honor to accept this baton from the plaintiffs. The work of the plaintiffs and RTAG will continue beyond the life of the settlement, promoting transparency, equitable and inclusive service delivery, and fostering public trust in the MBTA. Next slide, please. As the long-standing roles of Judge King, Greater Boston Legal Services, and the named plaintiffs will be changing, so will the role of RTAG. We are evolving from primarily an advisory role to one that includes oversight of MBTA's accessibility-related commitments. In terms of oversight, the MBTA, Greater Boston Legal Services, the plaintiffs, and BCIL have been working on a new agreement known as the New Generation Accessibility Agreement. This agreement is focused on preserving the many gains made over the last 2 decades, preventing backsliding. It includes specific commitments made by the MBTA to ensure the continuation of best-in-class accessible service. Next slide, please. These commitments include continuation of many areas, including those that may be uniquely vulnerable to backsliding without ongoing effort and vigilance, such as the role and autonomy of system-wide accessibility, best-in-class elevator uptime, station staffing standards, accessibility training for frontline employees, specific metrics for flagging instances of backsliding, and much, much more. RTAG's role will be to provide oversight of this new agreement, and work to ensure the MBTA is continually improving access for all. We are committed to clarifying our vision and goals to ensure they remain responsive to the evolving needs and concerns of the community we serve. Next slide, please. And here's just some information about how to get involved. You can contact me at 978-893-8100. There is also an email you can reach out to, which is rtagboston@bostoncil.org. We also have an RTAG newsletter, which I send out every month with information on upcoming meetings, as well as updates on the work that we've been doing. And you can also visit the mbta.com/RTAG to learn more. And I'm just going to plug our next RTAG meeting. We're asking folks if they could join us virtually on January 21st from 5:30 to 7:30 p.m. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Kat. We will see you in January. I just wanted the opportunity to say a few words on behalf of system-wide accessibility and our perspective as we move into this new reality. Both the Judge, Joanne, and as well as Kat spoke about the next generation agreement that we've just signed. And while it is an excellent document that's very thoughtfully designed to preserve the many, many gains that have been realized by all of us here today, thanks to the plaintiffs, I am cautiously optimistic that it's a document we're actually not going to need to refer to. Because at the MBTA, at every level, we are committed to continuing to move forward, not backwards. And the reason I'm so optimistic is taking stock of some of the progress that's been made. I just wanted to share some examples. You heard the Judge and Joanne speak to some of these. Next slide. So we are truly a fundamentally different agency than we were when the case was settled back in 2006. Just take a look at our bus service. There was a point in time when more times than anyone would like to believe, if you had a disability, particularly if you were a wheelchair user, you would be denied service on the bus, either because the lift was broken or because the operator felt that it was too much work to take the time to deploy the lift and board you appropriately. Over 10 to 11% of the time, folks were outright denied service. Over 90% of the time, if you were using a wheelchair, your wheelchair or scooter would not be secured properly. That is down to 8% today in 2025. And in terms of the denials of service, those based on our monitoring data are virtually non-existent. And this data, I should say, largely mirrors what we see in customer complaints. And it's been this way for roughly the past decade. We are holding strong thanks to extremely hard work within bus operations to make sure riders with disabilities are getting the service they deserve. And we're not going to go back. Next slide. Likewise, with elevator reliability, this was one of the biggest topics emerging out of the settlement in the early years. Back in the early 2000s, the elevator service was reliably unreliable. It was essentially unusable. And thanks to Dan Grabowskis at the time, who shifted from a repair-based contract to a preventative maintenance contract, our elevators became much more reliable. But what's more impressive is that thanks to our operations team, We've held our system-wide uptime at 99.4% or better system-wide consistently. We did have a noticeable dip about a year into COVID due to some supply chain issues, but we have largely resolved those concerns. We are extremely proud of this fact that we have one of the most reliable systems in the country, and we're not going to let that change. And then finally, take a look at the trajectory we are on now in terms of station accessibility. When the settlement was signed, just before the settlement was signed in 2005, less than 60% of our stations were accessible. Today, 83% are. But what's even more exciting is that within just the next 5 years, we will be closing in on 95% accessible stations, thanks to massive investments, largely on the Green Line and the commuter rail. So there is so much momentum and so much excitement behind this project. We're not going backwards. And just to highlight some of the things we're particularly excited about in the next couple of years. Next slide. As I mentioned, we have huge investments coming to the Green Line. Starting in 2026, construction will begin to make all of the C branch stations on the Green Line that are inaccessible accessible. And right behind that, all of the inaccessible stations on the B branch will be made accessible. And by that point in time, construction on the historic Symphony Station will be well underway, such that in 5 years, 97% of our Green Line stops and stations will be inaccessible. That's something that when I first started, we were not sure if ever would be the reality. In our bus system, we are optimistic that we will be finding a way to advance automatic enforcement of cars that are illegally parked in bus stops, which has been one of the longest standing concerns that we've heard from riders over the last few decades. And then finally, as the GM mentioned, one thing we'll be rolling out this year is a first of its kind accessibility for transit police. This is all work that's well underway, and we are just going to keep on moving forward. Next slide. All right, so when I think of the settlement and when folks ask me, well, how has the MBTA been able to not only make so many improvements, but sustain so many improvements? The answer is pretty obvious. It's not due to the capital investments the T has been made. And don't get me wrong, there's been many. It's not been due to the technical expertise that's been brought to the table, although there sure has been a lot. It has been because of the people involved in driving this forward and the trust and the relationships that we have built. There are far too many people in a story like this for me to acknowledge in just a few minutes. If you're in this room, in person or virtual, please know you've been part of it, and we owe you a debt of gratitude. Of course, there are a few folks I do want to single out, starting with my team in system-wide accessibility. Can you all make yourselves known in some way? So I have the privilege of having the bank today, but this is the group that comes in every day asking, all right, what can we do today to make things better, to make things easier for riders, and they deliver. I also just want to thank all of my colleagues and leadership across the organization who we have the pleasure of working with in all sorts of ways and are consistently rising to the occasion of putting the rider at the center of their work in doing things differently than have been done in years past. Thank you all. To Judge King, so not only has he served as our independent monitor for the last nearly 20 years, he's also brought his professional mediation skills to the table in maybe more ways than I care to remember. Judge, you have been an incredible resource to myself, my team. You have always kept us focused on the big picture and moving things forward. And I just cannot thank you enough for your support and all the help you've provided us. And Bill Henning, where is Bill?
Back there.
All right, Bill is one, I was saying to Bill earlier, Bill is one person that I will definitely be seeing way more of in the future as we enter this next generation. Bill also has been a relentless supporter of our work and one of the most insightful individuals that I've come across, always really quickly being able to size up complex situations and dynamics and offer really genuinely helpful advice, always knowing just when the time is right to turn the temperature up a little bit and keep us motivated. But by far and away, Tara and the plaintiffs, Joanne, Mick, Tom, Reggie, Andy, Rob, Jean, and all of our writers, we would not be here without you. That is an understatement. And we will continue doing our work because of you. We cannot thank you enough. And we look forward to continuing to work with you well into the future. Thank you, guys. All right, with that, speaking of Bill and Tara, I wanted to invite each of them on behalf of BCIL and Greater Boston Legal Services to come up to say a few words from their perspectives.
I'm so glad I don't have to go through the history of the case and all the wonderful things that happened since we filed a complaint and since we settled. So I'm just going to go read this lovely little speech thanking everyone. Okay? So I'm Tara Maddie Doucette, and I stand before you not only as lead counsel on the groundbreaking Daniels-Finegold lawsuit, but also as the person who identified the ADA violations and brought this case to Greater Boston Legal Services. This case was always about human decency and how we treat people with disabilities. Before anything else, I want to recognize the people at the very heart of the work, the named plaintiffs, and bear with me as I say their names, all of them. There are 11 named plaintiffs who deserve recognition for their work. Joanne Daniels-Finegold, Rogera Robinson, Jean Smith, Reginald Clark, Madeline Gold, Joan Golden, Menaris Cepeda, Maureen Kansemi, Andrew Foreman, Danford Larkin, Robert Park, Thomas Gilbert, and our organizational plaintiff, the Boston Center for Independent Living. Sadly, some of our plaintiffs have passed away. It's been, think of how many decades, right? I want to particularly recognize the 6 individuals who have tirelessly engaged for decades: Joanne, Menaris, Reggie, Tom, and Andy, and community advocate Christine Daniels. Your persistence, your courage, and your unwavering belief that public transportation must belong to everyone have driven this effort from the very beginning. You saw the barriers in transportation. You saw that barriers in transportation created barriers in life. And since 2002, you have remained steadfast in your goal of making the T a system where every rider, regardless of ability, can travel with dignity, independence, and safety. For more than 2 decades, I have had the privilege of representing you and working alongside you to enforce, as so many of us have said, the over 200 individual commitments that were set out in the settlement agreement. Each one aimed at transforming the MBTA into a transit system that is accessible to everyone. This moment reflects and celebrates not only your hard work, but your unshakable commitment to accessibility over so many years. You have been an essential part of my professional life. But more than that, we have been witnesses to one another's personal lives as well. In my profession, I'm expected to support my clients. But what has always stood out to me and what has profoundly impacted me is the support you have given me. Your kindness, your encouragement, and your trust have meant more than I can fully express. For this, I am truly grateful. I want to express my gratitude to our fantastic GBLS legal team, whose dedication made the next generation accessibility agreement possible. Attorneys Majda Abbas, my brilliant and supportive co-counsel. Where are you, Majda? There. Also, Gary Klein. Yes, she deserves a round of applause. 3 in the morning going to bed. Also, Gary Klein and our pro bono counsel, Mark Katzoff from CFAT Shore. Remember, we're legal aid, the nonprofit office. We need pro bono counsel. And law intern, Ellis Chase. All of you, your expertise, persistence, and partnership have been invaluable. And I must acknowledge Dan Manning, GBLS's former litigation director, who retired a few years ago. When I brought this case to him, knowing full well how resource-intensive an access case would be for a nonprofit legal aid organization, he did not hesitate. He agreed that we should represent this community. His consistent support made this work possible. Dan will always have my unending gratitude. Dan, are you here?
He's in the back.
There you are, Dan. I want to say this to you, Dan. I'm so glad we took on this case decades ago. Our legal work with the community has transformed public transportation for every single rider. I also want to thank the MBTA's team, Laura Brailsford, attorney John Martin, Jennifer Ross, Rob Sampson, and the entire SWA team, Sephira, Glenda, all of you. And special thanks to Chris Hart. You have been an amazing technical advisor to the plaintiffs and GBLS for so many years. To all of you, your thoughtful collaboration and commitment to accessibility help shape the next generation accessibility agreement that we can all be so proud of. Thank you as well, and I did say thank yous, and bear with me, I'm almost done. I have to say the thank yous. I dedicated my life to this case. Thank you as well to the many MBTA departments that have worked with us over the years. There are too many to mention each by name, but if you want to know who, just check in with Laura Brailsford. Your collaboration has been essential to the progress we've made together. And to my dear Laura, on behalf of the named plaintiffs and GBLS, we want to thank you for your vision, your leadership, and your remarkable persistence all these years in ensuring that the MBTA continues to make access a priority. You were instrumental in helping us move through the complexities of the settlement agreement, and now we are at the point where Judge King and GBLS are exiting, and the plaintiffs are exiting the case, and I'm sorry, let me say this correctly. We are at the point where Judge King and GBLS are exiting the case, and the plaintiffs, our wonderful plaintiffs, are moving to ARTAG. This is a huge success for all involved. With this, almost done. With this transition from a court-appointed independent monitor and GBLS oversight model to a community-driven monitoring model, we feel confident that plaintiffs have laid the groundwork for this continued access work to be effective under BCIL's and RTAG's leadership. And just a couple more. Katarina Torres Radicic, Kat, RTAG's facilitator, I thank you for your incredible work, and I am pleased that the plaintiffs will be in good hands. To Jessica Podesfer, she's now working at the National Council for Independent Living, many thanks for your early work in setting up RTAG. And also thank you, Bill Henning, my friend of BCIL, for your dedication and partnership over the years. And special thanks to you, Judge King. Thank you for your many years of zealous oversight of this settlement agreement. And lastly, this transition was possible because of the consistent support of General Manager Phil Eng, who from the first meeting with us in 2023 stayed the course and supported transportation access. We thank you, General Manager Eng. And he deserves a round of applause for that. He stepped in on day one. And my last closing words. Wow, I need to look around the room, y'all, okay? Let me look around the room. Now that we are finally at the point of transitioning, I want to remind everyone that this work is not over. Accessibility is not a box we check. It is a standard we must continue to raise. As systems age, as ridership grows, and as new technologies emerge, the community, through BCIL and RTAG, must insist that progress continues steadily, boldly, and inclusively. Thank you all. It was such a great ride. Go ahead, Bill.
Man, I don't know what to say. I have no notes, but I've got about 1,000 in my mind. I echo everything that Tara said, except for embracing the plaintiffs coming into RTAG. I'm scared shitless because, oops. We had a little meeting last week talking about this, and man, did we get our marching orders at RTAG and BCIL from Mick and Joanne and Tom. Andy was a little bit passive, but since he works right across the hallway, but and Reggie, of course, whom I will admire forever for his journey from institutionalization to civil rights leader. I also look in the room and I see the general manager of the T, the COO, the Secretary of Transportation, who's the same person as the GM, the head of the board of directors, former State Senator Tom McGee, Ryan's back there, Phil. I don't know if you see this anywhere else. A line I use often, this is a Massachusetts kind of thing. I'm not sure it was a New York thing to the degree it is here, where you have a group of activists in unison with a leadership like this. And that's encouraging, and we still have work to do. The T, as we know, faces fiscal pressures, years of neglect to the infrastructure. This team, these guys are working around the clock to improve it. But if we take our eyes off of the accessibility prize, we will have issues. Not because they want to see that happen, but because there are dozens of squeaky wheels going on. Someone should see how quickly Phil and Ryan look at their phone as soon as they leave this room and see how many new issues they're tackling. So it will be incumbent upon us, for people like Jimmy White, who shows up despite a PCA, spends hours doing the work himself that is very arduous, so he could come here. Colleen Flanagan in the back room, who pointed out to us a couple of years ago that platform gaps were again a problem, and let it be known that had to be fixed. And that's what it's going to take from all of you. Nora, who's chairperson of RTAG, keeping that together, and Kat, who's going to make it work. So it's a group effort. We've got to keep pushing onward. I appreciate all the reflection, but it's also something to keep going forward. Also, I did note, and it was mentioned, Gary Talbot, the first GM of SWA, should be recognized. Gary was on the screen for quite a while. I don't know if he's still there, but it was great to see Gary. You know, parked in Michigan, but still connecting with the MBTA. To everybody else here, I think as this kind of part of the speaking program ends, I'd like to call up Mick Cepeda, who has some final comments, and it should be one of the plaintiffs. Mick, who is one of the least shy people I've ever met, and it's a privilege to work with Mick, an absolute privilege.
Good afternoon, everybody, and I am very shy to speak. But my name is Minaidi Cepeda, aka Mick, and I am a named plaintiff. In the past 20 years, doing this work, I've watched the MBTA transform in many ways. I once only hoped for. Okay. Since the settlement, the most powerful change has been shift in culture, a growing respect from drivers, a deeper understanding of disabilities, and a recognition that accessibility is essential, not optional. I want to acknowledge the other plaintiffs whose leadership made this work possible and who shaped me along the way. Rogira taught us patience, and that with patience came understanding, resilience, and focus. From Andy, we learned importance of wayfinding and how critical navigation is to true independence. Tom and Reggie, both legally blind, inspired us with their incredible ability to identify buses, not just the routes, but the series, the service dates, and the styles of each bus, just by listening to them going by. The knowledge reminded me how deeply people rely on this system and how much expertise riders contribute. And from Joanne, I learned the power of words. As someone who speaks English as a second language, I have appreciated each time that she has helped me shape my feelings into words, reminding me that advocacy is not just about what we say, but how we say it. I also want to recognize RTAG, which plays a critical role as both independent monitors and community voice. They must continue to be a group rooted in community and a place that people know they can turn to. As we move forward, our goal is simple: to protect what we've built and to use it as the foundation for continued progress towards a more accessibility for everyone. That in 25, 50 years from now, history will look and note and recognize that the collaboration work, time, and effort between the MBTA's SWA group and all its members and the plaintiffs, which transformed from adversarial to friends and even family, which will disagree and argue, but always with respect, focus, and mission. With this, I end this portion, and I would like to call up Tara Marie Doucette. Tara, whereas we, the plaintiffs, believe that public transportation should be accessible to all without regard to abilities, whereas all people with disabilities must have every opportunity to be fully participating members of our community, and fundamental to this opportunity is the right and ability to use public transportation in an equal, effective, and dignified manner. Whereas Taramari Doucette has demonstrated courage to take up such a momentous task, whereas she has shown support through consistently standing beside us, whereas she has offered guidance through years of work in service of disability rights, whereas she has modeled tolerance by being the glue holding us together for 26 years, whereas she has practiced patience amidst change and transformation, whereas she has exuded strength with her endless resilience in pursuing justice. Part one. It seems a lot smaller on the other one. Whereas she has exhibited great empathy as a friend, mentor, and attorney, whereas she has displayed compassion, honoring her commitments as an ally to the disability community. Now, therefore, let it be known that the named plaintiffs, Maureen Consemi, Benaidy Cepeda, Reginald Clark, Joanne Daniels-Finegold, Andrew Foreman, Thomas Gilbert, Madeline Joan Golden, Dan Larkin, Robert Park, Rogira Robinson, Jean Smith, and the Center for Independent Living, or BCIL, in the Daniels-Finegold et al. Versus MBTA class action suit, hereby proclaim that Taramari Doucette, Esquire, has demonstrated with extreme courage, tolerance, patience, and grace the completion of this chapter of our 26-year journey, dedicated on this day, December 10th, 2025. Thank you. Hold on. Where is it? Come on up, plaintiffs. Stand here.
Surprise! Okay, everybody, please look this way. 1, 2, and 3. One more.
All right, everybody. So that is the end of our speaking presentation. But as we always do at these semi-annual meetings, we want to make sure that there's an opportunity to hear from you. I'm going to turn it over to Safira to help navigate this feedback session. And I imagine there will be lots of photo opportunities once we wrap with this. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Laura. So we are going to go over to the comments and questions section of the agenda. So I'm back to talk you through more Zoom logistics. So if you have a question or comment or piece of feedback on Zoom, in the Zoom controls area, you can click reaction and then click raise hand. And that's how I will know. I have my computer here. I can see that you're raising your hand. There are also keyboard shortcuts you can use. You can raise or lower your hand with the following keyboard shortcuts. If you're on Zoom, Alt-Y on Windows or Option-Y for our Mac users will raise or lower your hand. And if you are on the phone with us today, you can use the following shortcuts to raise or lower your hand by phone, and that is *9 to raise your hand, and then you'll need to press *6 to unmute. For our in-person attendees, a couple of things to keep in mind. Please raise your hand or otherwise indicate or signal to me that you have a question, and I'll call on you. Please wait for one of our assistants, Glenda or Lisa, who are going to be coming around the room with microphones. Please don't ask your question until you have a microphone. That gives everybody the best opportunity to hear you. And if you are using ASL and you have a question, please stand if you can, and we may adjust your location so that the online interpreters can have a clear view of you and can translate. So before I open it up for questions and comments, a very quick reminder that the focus of our meeting today is about fixed route service, not the ride. If you do have feedback about the ride and are unsure of how to contact them, please see any of us from SWA who have been identified during this meeting, and we can assist you to get in touch with them. And finally, before I take any general comments from the general audience, I did want to first offer the opportunity, the first pass to any of the named plaintiffs in the room. If you all would like to speak, please indicate that now, and we'll let you go first before the general public. Thank you so much. Tom, go ahead. Oh, actually, don't go ahead. Wait for a mic. Thank you.
Hey, Lisa. Thanks. Okay. Yep. I just wanted to thank everyone, and including the general manager and BCIL, everybody that's here to make this all possible. And I have a little speech for that I want to say something about Tara. I have right here. It says, I really appreciate Tara for honoring her commitments to all plaintiffs and never giving up, never taking no. We're the only lawsuit in the country that survived because of our commitment. She has been extremely dedicated. She never gave up on us, and we didn't give up on her. Oh, God.
Thank you, Tom.
Reggie, you had something? Here you go.
My name is Reginald Hampton. Just want to thank Tara from 1990 when we were started on the case. We started with one of the areas that we cleared, and we brought this case together because we were working together. We should be on common ground, and we should stand tall and appreciate the work that's being done. Thank you.
Thank you, Reggie. All right, I'll now open it up to the virtual and physical room for any questions or comments. Don, did I see that you had one? Just wait for a mic. Wait one moment.
There won't be any squeaks today, but I do want to say thank you to everyone. Judge King, General Manager Eng, Assistant General Manager Brailsford, the named plaintiffs, and thank you so much to Dan Manning and Terry Doucette for their unwavering commitment to us, the public, to the class members. Thank you so much. There was one squeak, but I'll address that by email to Assistant General Manager Brailsford. Thank you.
Thank you. I do see that there's a question from the audience, but I want to go over to Zoom to ask Gary Talbot if you can unmute yourself.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you very much. And thank you to Laura for making sure that that I knew that you guys were meeting today. It's such a wonderful thing. I couldn't believe the general manager's comments and Judge King and everybody else. I mean, to think of where you guys are today from where we started is just amazing. It's a dream come true. I can't tell you how proud I am of all of you guys. This was the dream. You have fully integrated accessibility into everything that you do. And that you can't lose with that. For Judge King and his friendship, his leadership and help over the years is just amazing. How anybody ever pulled this team together is just a miracle. And God bless you all. And thank you so very, very much. I had a small part in it, but oh my God, it'll be one of the greatest achievements of my life just to be part of it. Thank you.
So, Gary, it's Laura. I did not realize you were on until Bill said so. I hope you know that your part in all of this was not small at all. You truly are the father of system-wide accessibility, and we would not be here today. So please know that this is your legacy as much as anyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I did see a comment in the room.
Thank you so much. This is a thrilling occasion. I came into this whole world in 2019 when my son became a paraplegic, and as a lifelong T user, now he uses the system in a wheelchair. Now I'm a board member on SCI Boston, Spinal Cord Injury Boston, which is a unit of United Spinal, and I have a long history on the municipal level with being a resident chair of various transportation and public transit related boards. I would like to say from the municipal perspective that the legal agreement is going to be very useful going forward, even though I have the utmost confidence in the team at the MBTA. They're truly top-notch. It's something to cite when we need to explain to the public and to municipal officials who have many different concerns the absolute importance of guaranteeing accessibility of the fixed route system. I think there's a win-win to emphasize going forward in terms of bus fleet renewal, consistent bus service, bus-only lanes, and access to stops at all seasons. It's a win for accessibility as well as for the general public. And I'd like to see the MBTA use the government liaison function, which I believe was recently created, to really do energetic outreach to municipal officials over and over again to emphasize those curb accessibility issues.
Thank you for that. Yes, I see somebody has a question or comment in the back. If you could just wait briefly for the mic. Thanks.
Hi, I just wanted to say thank you to everyone who did this. My dad had surgery on his spine when he was 6. He had them until he was 17, and he is significantly physically disabled. To all of our surprise, joined the Disability Club as well. And for both of us now, he can no longer drive and I never could. We can't get around without the T. And since I'm 30, I grew up watching this lawsuit happen. I got to watch it be created. I got to watch it in the news, and I just wanted to say thank you. And it's such an honor to be able to say that to these people that I've been reading about and watching and admiring for so long. You are all incredible, and you gave me the life I have because I can get around. I can have jobs. I can go grocery shopping and train my service dog because all of you did something. And it's incredible. I'm just one person, but I think there's a lot of us who feel like this.
think the one meeting logistic we overlooked was the tissue boxes, so note for next time we do this. Any other questions or comments? We have one in the back over there.
This will be very similar and different, very similar and slightly different from much of what we've already heard. My name is Josh. My contribution here is purely as beneficiary of all of your hard work. I have spent the last 3 years or so navigating the city with a stroller, strollers of various sizes. And I noticed just how seamless everything was. I basically never had to think about it. I say I noticed. I actually didn't notice because it was so seamless. I could just get from here to there without thinking about it. So I didn't even really think about it until about a year afterwards, that this is unusual and special. And I wish it weren't unusual and special. But at the same time, I just wanted to say, the accessibility work that you have all done makes the city open for people regardless of physical ability, and also makes it open to families. It makes the city and the system and the service a thing that can be relied on for families with children. And yeah, I just wanted to say thank you so much to everybody who's put decades of work into this.
Thank you. I see we have a hands raised online. Zachary Yarrow, if you want to go ahead and unmute.
Hi, my name's Zachary. I wanted to echo, I have so much appreciation for the work you've done. It's made it so much easier to get around. It's something I noticed the lack of in visiting other cities. Because I've pushed hard for accessibility for a long time, and then have benefited from myself. I had a knee injury last year, and it was I was so grateful that you've put in so much work that it was still easy to get around in the system. And I also appreciate so much hearing the commitment to keep doing the work, because I know there are a lot of like accessible stations that are marked as accessible on the map, but still have, if you're going to from a particular entrance to a particular direction platform, it's not as direct as it could be. And I know there are projects down the pipeline to make those movements a lot more straightforward. And so I really appreciate you all reaffirming that commitment to keep doing this really important work. And I'm looking forward to those future improvements. So thank you.
Thank you, Zachary.
I wanted to point out that accessibility improvements improve navigating the system for everyone, period. It benefits everyone, not just the disabled community. And anybody can become even temporarily disabled very quickly. People like to ski around here, just saying. However, also, I want to encourage people to learn more about the T. People who are just starting to feel free to come out and use it. Find out about the mobility center. Find out about transit training. It will make your life a lot easier. There were 2 bus inspectors who really took me by the hand and said, "Joanne, this is how you have to learn how to use the T." And that was back in the late 90s. And to this day, they've got my heart. But there was somebody who showed me the way. Go and look and ask. You might be missing something that would make your life a whole lot easier. Just saying. And please ask questions.
Thank you, Joanne. Tom, yes, go ahead.
Thanks, Lisa. Yeah, this is Tom here. I kind of wanted to piggyback on what Joanne was saying. I think the travel training is going to be essential to one of the things that's going to make it essential to making the system better. Especially in the area of accurate bus stop announcements. Like when you're on the bus and you hear your stop come up and you hit the button and you're already going by it. That's not too helpful to somebody that's visually impaired. So when people go out on travel training, when they train especially someone like that's visually impaired, like myself and Reggie, they'll pick up on that and they can report back to like whether it's adjusting the transit master or spacing the bus stop better, things like that. So I think that's going to be, the kind of the boots on the, in a way, boots on the ground. So I think the travel training center is really, really important aspect to this. So I just wanted to say thanks.
Thank you, Tom. All right. With that, I am going to transition us forward into closing remarks. Before I hand it back over to the judge who's actually going to close the meeting, we have just a couple of slides with an upcoming meeting date and ways to contact us, to Joanne's point, if we could pull those up. All right, we very much encourage you to connect with us and to continue to connect with us after today. As I think that you've heard, feedback from riders is how we make our system better. So there's a number of ways in order to do that. You can contact us by phone. Our customer support line is 617-222-3200, and I will note that is for questions, concerns, feedback, both good and bad. And then the MBTA Mobility Center may be reached at 617-337-2727. That's also who you can contact for travel training, which Joanne mentioned. In person, the Charlie Service Center is at 296 Washington Street in Boston, and the Mobility Center is currently at 1000 Massachusetts Ave, Suite 201 in Boston. If you want to contact us by email, you can contact MBTA customer support by using mbta.com/customer/support. And then finally, the work does not continue here. Oh, my clicker doesn't like me anymore. Can we go to the next slide, please? I think they're cutting me off. All right. So thank you for joining us, but please stay for the judge's closing remarks. I just wanted to note that, as Kat mentioned, we have two upcoming meetings, one in January and one in February, both 5:30 to 7:30 p.m. virtually. In January 21st and February 25th. So we do hope to see you then to continue the work. And with that, I will hand it back over to Judge King to close us out. Thank you.
Thank you. This has been quite a meeting. A lot of emotion. I can't believe it's been 18 years since I started this. But I'm confident that this is the appropriate time to handle the baton over to our take, and I know Kat will do a wonderful job. By the way, even though this is the last public meeting that I'll be presiding over, this will not be the last public meeting because the new agreement between BCIL and the MBTA provides for up to 2 public meetings a year. So I'm confident that in the future, there'll be additional public meetings where folks can come in and provide their input. One of the reasons I'm so confident about how things will turn out in the years to come is now under the leadership of General Manager Ng. He's demonstrated he's a person who can get things done and get things done quickly. He's not afraid to rip off the bandage when necessary and cause some temporary pain for long-term gains. As we've all experienced. When I began this 18 years ago, I met with Judge Morris Alasko, who was at that time 90 years of age. He had been appointed by Lyndon Johnson. And I always remember, I was thinking of him as I was coming here on the red line today because when he appointed me, he had 2 requests. He says, I'm getting older, my hearing's not so good anymore. Can you do something about the level of the stop announcements? And oh, by the way, can you get them to stop saying it's Central Square at every stop? So as I was on the red line this morning, I was thinking of the judge and the fact that the stop announcements not only announced the correct stops, but they were, and this was on an older red line car, they were clear, crisp, and everyone could hear them. So I'm sure the judge would be very pleased with the progress that it made if he were still around today on the red line going from Harvard Square to South Station. So with that, I'm going to wish you all a happy and healthy new year, and I look forward perhaps to joining you at one of your public meetings in the future. And although I'm no longer going to be the independent monitor, I won't be far away, so at any point anyone needs my assistance on anything, I'll always be available. I wish you all well. Thank you.